Here we go then. Forget all these practice sessions on a Friday. We just need the one this weekend. It's time for a sprint. The race comes tomorrow, 19 laps around the circuit of the Americas, just in time for round 19 of the Formula One season in 2024. We're back here in Austin and we're racing around this particular track, just under 3.5 miles. Full throttle for 56.4% of the lap. Valtteri Bottas, the lap record holder. 2 DRS zones, one of which, zone 1, has been shortened by 95 metres from last year. 20 corners, second most on the calendar, and we're around about 10 miles from downtown Austin, which looks absolutely splendid this afternoon. It is great to be back in the live music capital of the United States. Who was on song in the practice session earlier? Ferrari were 1 and 2 with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen was right up there. McLaren were having a few problems trying to stay within track limits. Mercedes were having problems bottoming out, and Lewis Hamilton with a big spin down at turn 4, and George Russell having a moment at that particular corner as well. Partly cloudy conditions. It's still fairly warm around here, and it's going to be red hot when the cars take to the track in a few moments' time. It's sprint qualifying, so it's 12 minutes for the first session, SQ1. It's 10 minutes for the second session, SQ2, and it's 8 minutes to decide who gets pole position for the sprint. First race of the season in the sprint format. Pole was Lando Norris's. Since then, Max Verstappen has taken both poles, and he has won all 3 sprint races in 2024. And if you remember back to last year here in Austin, he won and led from start to finish. There's your mandatory tyres. Medium for the first part of qualifying, medium for the second part of qualifying, and soft tyres when they go for pole position. And this man, Carlos Sainz, car number 55, has been making rather a habit of 5th place in the sprint this year, starting fifth in every single one of the 3 sprints and finishing 5th in every single one of the 3 sprints. A little ahead of him is former Toro Rosso teammate Max Verstappen. Championship leader by 52 points. Lando Norris has been slowly but surely making up some of that deficit. This weekend, Martin Brundle is where he needs to really make a big impression.
Glorious day, glorious track, and we'll see what they can do, but with so little time on a resurfaced track, less bumps but less grip, and really a lot of high-energy corners here as well. It's a challenge. It's a great challenge, actually. I know they've got their simulators, they can rehearse and practice all they like, but what matters is bumping across the curbs and controlling the car. So a lot to learn and to get right over the next, what have we got, 30 minutes of running.
30 minutes with a few interruptions while the tyres get changed and the drivers study the data. The cars going to the end of the pit lane now to get this qualifying underway. It's a warm welcome and a howdy y'all to our viewers on Sky Sports main event as Max Verstappen leads the cars out of the pit lane in time for sprint qualifying. Quick reminder, if you want to ride on board with any of the 20 drivers in this qualifying session, you can do so, and you can listen to their team radios at the same time. If you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Glass or Sky Stream, or now, you can press your interactive button on your remote control. Otherwise, you need your Sky Sports app and you need to log in with your Sky Sports ID. In the pit lane for us this afternoon, Mr. T. Kravitz. Good afternoon, Ted.
Hello, Mr. D. Croft and Mr. M. Brundle. Hello, everybody. Well, the session's only 40 seconds old, and we've already had our first unsafe release from the pits, Crofty. It's a Sauber, I think it's Valtteri Bottas, into the path and almost the side pod of Sergio Perez. I'm absolutely sure we're going to get a replay because that was as plumb an unsafe release as you're ever lucky to get. I can't believe Valtteri didn't see him, but he was not only released into the path of the Red Bull, but he pretty much clomped into the side pod. Anyway, I don't think they actually made contact, but it wasn't far off. But, Crofty, it's Ferrari, isn't it, going into this practice session? Ferrari, that's the only name on everybody's lips. They have been the pace setters so far, but they just need to make sure they don't happen. What doesn't happen in Singapore happens today, when they were looking so good, weren't they? And then went into the qualifying session. All right, it was on Saturday back then. It wasn't a sprint weekend. It's a Friday sprint now, and they had a couple of very underwhelming performances. But no mess in Texas for Ferrari. They're determined to make amends and make the best use of their upgrade package, which they also debuted in Singapore all those weeks ago.
Surprising, though, given just how wide the pit lane is. You can see it there, that they could manage to nearly run into each other. But because of your hands device on your crash helmet and the headrest, you can see nothing. There's anything alongside you or remote three-quarter angle or whatever. Absolutely nothing from the cockpit. So you rely totally on your pit crew.
Yes, which tends to be why fines are issued rather than grid penalties for unsafe releases. Max Verstappen, we can see him there, just making his way around turn 1, is on a flying lap. He was the first car out of the pits, and he's already made his way through turns 1 and 2, and there's still a nasty little bump on entry into turn 4, but the Red Bull riding over that particularly well.
It's a brilliant section of corners there that just keep the early phase of it anyway faster and faster. Then it gets a little trickier. Downhill braking zone into the hairpin, and you want to get the car turned and on the power as early as you can, because you've got a lovely long straight. Might be as straight as a banana, but it's absolutely flat out and easily flat out for a Formula 1 car. And you've got a big braking point at the end. You want the car in a straight line, as Max getting rid of their rip-off from his visor, and take a wide line in, and again just minimize the angle of the corner. And this is quite a technical part of the lap now. 13, 14, turn 15 now, really tight through the exit. And this is where they let the cars go towards the end of the lap.
Yeah, some punishing corners coming up towards the end of the lap, especially when you're on the soft tyres. In the final part of qualifying, the mediums can cope with it just a little bit better. Stay within track limits around turn 19. A few have been going wide there. Stay within track limits as well. Don't completely cross the white line on exit at turn 20. In fact, Verstappen didn't do that. He was very much on the white line. A 1:34.698 for him. Last year, SQ1, a 1:35. 1:35.9 from Max Verstappen was the fastest time. 1.3 seconds quicker with the first time lap of this session already.
Well, we do know the track's less bumpy, that helps, but I think also that reminds you of the incredible development we've seen through this season of Formula One cars.
Hulkenberg now third fastest, Sergio Perez behind Max. Less than just over a tenth of a second between Verstappen and Perez. That's a much better lap as Norris gets all out of shape, a bit floaty through turn one. Perez was a long way behind his teammate in practice, but his time of a 1:34.716 is not going to count because he went over the track limits at turn 9. So whilst it was a good start from Sergio, that lap is not going to count.
But what about Magnussen? Kevin Magnussen, 2/10s, 3/10s faster than Max Verstappen. As Liam Lawson pops a time in there, also incredibly fast. Well, you couldn't have written that one.
No, Lawson replacing Daniel Ricciardo for the rest of the season. Replaced Daniel Ricciardo for 5 races last year. Didn't race here in Austin. Looked pretty competitive in the first practice session as well. The RB looks good with Yuki Tsunoda right up there. Haas, RB, Red Bull, RB, Alpine, Williams, Alpine, Haas, Sauber. There's a few more that might get in the mix on that one, but yeah, that would be a lovely top 10, wouldn't it?
That's fascinating, though, isn't it? Because those times are very, very good times from the Magnussen, Tsunoda et al. And the two Williams now up in 6th and 7th. So getting out towards the end and getting a strong lap in is going to be critical here for everybody on the grid.
Lando Norris goes fastest overall by nearly half a second from Kevin Magnussen. The two Williams with identical times, and Alex Albon, the only driver to be knocked out in SQ1 at every sprint weekend so far in 2024. Big difference between Norris and Piastri, who slots into 7th.
Yeah, and Norris's car didn't look that good, it must be said. We saw him squirreling around at the top of turn 1 there, early on in the lap. Presumably his tyres weren't fully where he needed them, but he managed to hook it up in the second part of the lap.
Charles Leclerc goes quickest by just over a couple of hundredths of a second from Lando Norris. Ferrari carrying on where they left off this morning. And all these on the medium tyre, Martin, and we often see in these sprint sessions, the mediums for the first two and then soft, and the balance of the car can change a bit, can't it?
It can, but they can't put new tyres on, remember? No. They've got to, so Perez losing that time is painful in a sprint qualifying, and they've only got 12 sets of tyres for a sprint weekend instead of 13 for a normal Grand Prix weekend. So these are very challenging times.
Pressure's on Sergio Perez when he gets going on his next flying lap. George Russell, 4th fastest for him, and his teammate Lewis Hamilton, quickest through the first sector, quickest overall, 5/100ths of a second up on Charles Leclerc, and less than a tenth separating the top 3. Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, and Hamilton, a driver who's never qualified outside the top 5 here in the USA. And that includes the sprint from last year as well.
And the problem they have is they get down towards turn 12 through the section I said was really twisty. They're trying to prepare for a lap or just get out of the way, and it's very easy to trip over each other and get a penalty here, as I think George Russell did last year, didn't he?
He
did. In SQ1.
He balked Charles Leclerc in the first part of qualifying, got a 3-place grid penalty for that sprint race. Watching the Red Bull here of Max Verstappen, I can tell you his teammate Sergio Perez looks to be doing a second cool lap just to take some heat out of those tyres. Certainly through the first sector, he wasn't, and the middle sector as well. He's not doing anything like flat-out speed. And in that bottom 5 currently, alongside Sergio Perez, the two Saubers of Bottas and Joe, and then Ocon and Hulkenberg. But still a long way to go.
Yeah, Piastri's doing the same. I think they just want to get heat out of everything, recharge the battery, and go again. There's a lot of jeopardy in sprint qualifying, isn't there?
There certainly is. You've got to get it right from the outset, or you put yourself out of sync a little bit as well. And it's quite clear, watching where all the cars are, or the majority of the cars are on the track at the moment, that they are just staging themselves for a bit of a grandstand finish towards the end of this session. Verstappen through the first sector, though, a little bit out of sync. He's already started his latest flying lap, and he's just a fraction of a second outside the best time we've had in that first part. Every time we go on board, you get to see the relenting, undulating nature of this track. They have moved literally heaven and earth to create this, and what a job they did.
Yeah, they certainly did, certainly up into turn 1 especially, but this is now heading down to turn 12 at the end of the back straight car with some vertical movement on the bumps, and you could really hear him hit the throttle hard and upshift immediately. The incredible, the relentless acceleration of these hybrid Formula 1 cars with whatever 1,000 horsepower under their right foot. And Max is hustling, he's chasing.
He is, he's still a fraction of a second off the pace that he needs. His teammate Sergio Perez has started his latest flying lap. He's 3/10 down on Verstappen through the first sector alone. 2 more corners to go then for the defending champion, the man who leads the World Championship, and this time he's a little bit more within those track limits, and he goes 3rd fastest behind Leclerc and Hamilton, so improves his time but can't improve his placings. It is, to remind you though, all about staying out of the bottom 5, and that's what Sergio Perez has got to do, and he's matched his teammate through the middle sector on this latest lap.
Yeah, not too bad in the first sector, Sergio, but good enough, I think, if he hooks up the end of the lap to get himself into the safety zone.
And he moves himself into 7th. Now, is that good enough for Sergio Perez? A 1:34.3. Franco Colapinto, if he can, his teammate Alex Albon improve by 7/10, that might just put Sergio in a bit of danger, assuming those in between improve as well. And here is Franco Colapinto in his first ever sprint qualifying session, kicking up a little bit of grass there, and he's doing a very decent job so far through the first sector to get a time that could get him out of that bottom 5.
Yeah, he's really pushing the car hard. I hope the tyres will stay with him through the completion of the lap, because it's moving around a lot. He's really attacking the racetrack, and there he goes again, and his tyre temperature will be going up and up and up, and he might take some pain later on in the lap.
Oscar Piastri's not had a brilliant first sector, to be honest. 25.5, matched by Alex Albon. They're right down there in the danger zone currently. I think they would have been looking for a little bit more, a couple of tenths better than that. Colapinto, 37.8 for the middle sector. That's decent. This should shift him out of the bottom 5 if he can keep going with this one. And the grandstands cheering him on. I've already seen a few Argentine flags for Franco Colapinto here at the track today, 21-year-old. As through the final couple of corners he goes, the Alpine of Esteban Ocon keeps nicely out of the way.
They've moved the white line in turn 19 to give them a bit of breathing space now through the exit, so we're going to see less track limit problems there, unless they have a major problem and go way off track.
Which is what must have happened to Sergio Perez, because that's turn 9 where he went off, and that's Oscar Piastri getting very much on the curb once again, and having a bit of a bucking bronco ride here on this lap. Goes 7th fastest ahead of Sergio Perez, but the difference between Lando Norris as Alex Albon spins round and round and somehow manages to come out of the spin facing the right way, but he's completely overcooked his tyres, and that should be Alex Albon out of the sprint in SQ1 for the 4th time out of 4 in 2024. Hulkenberg takes the line, 15th fastest only, still very much at risk, with Ocon and Zhou and Gasly improving behind him. Liam Lawson on the cusp, needs to go a little bit faster as well. Checker flag is flying. These laps are the laps that need to count for them. Lawson goes ahead of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who's on a personal best through the first sector. Next across the line will be Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. He should be safe enough and moves ahead of Perez and Magnussen. Valtteri Bottas will be next across the line. It's personal best 1 and 2, but not enough for a lap to get him out of the bottom 5.
Piastri lost his lap time.
Yeah.
Piastri down in 16th. And that was, I always say, a good car spins down the middle of the road. Something I've said all my career. But a good car should not spin like that.
Esteban Ocon crosses the line, and he is less than a tenth of a second behind Oscar Piastri. 1, 2, 3, 4. Piastri is out though, because Gasly has gone ahead of him.
Yeah.
16th, not good enough for Oscar Piastri. That lap time deleted at turn 19, where we saw him going wide, has cost him dear.
Yep, he's not on a lap, as you can see there, and that means he will start 16th for the sprint tomorrow. And that's not what McLaren needed with their World Championship fight, both for Norris and in the Constructors.
chances are he's not going to be doing anything to help his teammate from down in 16th on the grid. Not the start that Oscar Piastri was looking for here. Last year in Austin for the sprint, he qualified 5th. This year, he qualified 16th with Esteban Ocon down there in the drop zone alongside him. Alex Albon, after that spin, cost him a chance of getting into the second part. And the two Saubers of Bottas and Zhou will bring up the rear of the grid for the sprint tomorrow. Well, welcome back to Austin, where Oscar Piastri and his teammate Lando Norris went into this sprint qualifying, knowing they'd reached SQ3 in every single sprint this year. That's not going to continue that record because it looks a handful throughout the lap, and it was a handful too much going around turn 19. Piastri crossing that white line and exceeding track limits. His time was deleted. He is out of qualifying.
Okay, Oscar, so your second lap was deleted for track limits turn 19, I'm afraid. Currently we are P16. We're just double checking whether anyone else has made similar mistakes. So if you could stay in the car.
And that was a few moments ago, but no one else did make any mistakes, and Oscar had to get out of the car, as you can see there, and make his way towards the media pen, where I'm sure there's plenty waiting to ask him a few questions. We'll go to the media pen ourselves now. It's where Anthony Davidson is, at the Skypad.
Thanks, Coffey. I'm not asking any of the drivers questions, but I can certainly see what happened to Piastri here in turn 19. Just a bit undecided on the entry, and then there it is, clear as day on the exit, running over the white lines. And he wasn't alone in that corner. Of course, Albon fell foul of that corner as well, and he definitely clipped the inside curb big time. Look at that, right over that orange curb there on that left-hand side, and it just throws the car up into the air, and that's what creates that spin. So yeah, of course he goes off the track. The lap time is gone anyway. The lap's gone, but the reason for that is because of that curb on the inside. They've got to be wary of that one, and even if they're not hitting the curb, you've got to be looking at turn 19. It's getting people once again right at the end of the lap. Your lap time can be deleted. So yeah, back to you.
Thanks ever so much, Ant. Let's head to the McLaren pit wall. Zach Brown, the CEO, is with us. Dare say, Zach, that wasn't what you were expecting from the first part of this qualifying session.
No, obviously a disappointing start to sprint qualifying. Car looks like it's got plenty of speed, very close. Ferraris look tough, and yeah, unfortunately Oscar lost his lap there. He was comfortably in, so be a bit of a long day for him tomorrow.
They both look a little bit difficult to drive, Zach, and Oscar looks like he just understeered wide through that final corner. Must have caught him out.
Yeah, drivers aren't totally happy with the balance of the race car. I think they're having to work pretty hard, and that corner gets a handful of people caught out. So they're pushing.
That's the reason we're quite early on this one.
Tomorrow and focus
just to avoid traffic and tripping over a load of people.
Good qualifying spot.
Thanks ever so much, Zach. We'll be back with you at the end of SQ2, which has got underway. 10 minutes, and we are 30 seconds into it. Lewis Hamilton just getting some last-minute instructions from Peter Bonington, his race engineer, before he heads out onto the track in a staggered formation as the drivers letting the car in front get nicely ahead so they don't have to back off too much during the course of the 3.5 miles preparation lap.
Pretty relentless, isn't it, sprint qualifying? It's blink and you'll miss the gaps or the opportunity. It's good. It's ferocious.
Big flags wherever you look around here. The stars and stripes. Well, that's one of the best flags, that. Although I always like the Swiss flag. It was a big plus for me. That was. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Very good, David. Swiss flag, of course, square rather than rectangular.
Yeah, very good.
One of the few in the world for those flag fans out there. Right, so Lewis Hamilton was asking his engineer, Peter Bonington there, why are we going out so soon? And the answer was to avoid traffic. And that's what we did see some drivers suffer from. In fact, I think it was compromised because most drivers in SQ1 were fueled for the whole session. So I saw plenty of drivers sitting in the pit box, having their cars cooled down, not refueling, and then just going out for the second run. So, yeah, that's what Mercedes are trying to avoid. They want to get the best out of the tyres in maybe the first hot lap or maybe the cool down lap in between, and then the next one, rather than have to come back. And then, well, by that time, Crofty, the tyre's pretty much gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Tactics differ from a normal qualifying session, but one thing remains: if you're in the bottom 5 at the end of SQ1 or SQ2, you are out. That's what's happened to Oscar Piastri. Let's hear from him now. We'll hear from Oscar Piastri in a few moments' time. On board with George Russell, making his way through turn 1 to turn 2. Sparks flying out from underneath that Mercedes that did look a little handful going through these corners in the practice session, Martin.
Yeah, it's got a nice flow to it now, though. And George looks like he's been a little bit behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton, hasn't he? Struggling a bit so far today, and we've only had running today, of course, but now's his chance. You can just see how his body goes down, submarines a little bit, as he breaks so hard down into the hairpin. And sort of the energy levels going through the driver are so hard to understand and believe when you're watching shots like that. But it's just a natural instinct of your body to literally go just submarine a little bit down into the cockpit when you're pulling 5G under braking. But this is the double right of 13 and 14, and then a really tight, ever tightening left there. And this then is sort of the yeehaw part of the lap, where you can just keep hooking up the apexes here, flat out. But this is the key part. Pick it up into T19, don't run wide, brake into the hill, and this is another car you need to get turned nice and early. It's a short run then to the line. And Russell then into the 33s.
And about 2 tenths ahead of Kevin Magnussen, about 4 tenths ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. And George Russell slots into second place just behind his teammate there. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc pretty handy through the first sector. Lando Norris struggling a touch once more, and he crosses the line, only third fastest, so behind the 2 Mercedes. Toto Wolff watches on with Esteban Gutierrez, fine Mexican driver, stood right beside him. Yuki Tsunoda waiting his turn to come out, as Ted was saying. Carlos Sainz, we can see what's going on the track. 1:33.2 crosses the line with the fastest time so far.
I like the wolf eyes there. The wolf eyes just looked to the right going, I know you're watching me. I clocked you. And back he goes to concentrate. Mercedes must think, you know what, I think we've got a chance this weekend. Mercedes team must be feeling quite good with the running we've had so far today.
Yeah, Ferrari 1 and 3 though, with Lewis Hamilton in between, just ahead of his teammate for next season, Charles Leclerc. We didn't see Leclerc cross the line, but he popped his Ferrari up into 3rd place. Colapinto behind Kevin Magnussen. We're on board with car number 1, Max Verstappen, just making his way round turn 18 on his preparation lap, on his out lap, to see if he can safely progress through to the final part of this sprint qualifying.
Sainz found 9/10 of a second from SQ1 to SQ2, and that's put him up front at the moment. Rear wing wide open, heading up to the top of the hill. 40-meter climb, 131 feet to the top. Cambers moving all over the place up there, as I was explaining when I was out there this morning in free practice 1. And then this series of corners just keep coming at you. If you get the first one wrong, you'll never make the rest of them.
Easier to go up to turn 1 in a Formula 1 car than it is in a pair of trainers. It is that steep, and then when you get to the top, the car can get really kind of flighty and floaty on you as the cambers, what do you describe it? A mishmash of cambers through turn 1 take effect. But Verstappen safely through there, and a 25.1, very handy first sector for him. Now he can relax a touch down the long back straight. But when you get to the braking zone, Martin, they say they've got rid of the big bump. They might have done, but there's a ripple, a concertina of bumps right there for the drivers to navigate.
Yeah, and the DRS closes at that point as well, which must affect the aerodynamics a little bit for a short while, just when you need maximum stability as the rear wing clamps shut. But that's a very wide turn in then to 15. Max has been given the white lines. Plenty of plenty of respect, it must be said, so far. He doesn't want to risk losing a lap time. Turning into Tina again, nowhere near the limit of the width of the track there. I noticed that in SQ1 as well. Hacksawing away at the wheel to get it to turn through the last corner. And he's only missing 24 thousandths of a second down.
Yeah, but behind Carlos Sainz, he was taking on his second run in the first part of qualifying. You know, much easier with those white lines, just to make sure of it. It's not about being the fastest at this particular point, it's about being in the top 10 and getting through. Sergio Perez, meanwhile, 3/10 down on his teammate through the first sector. Plenty of time to make that up, and as he makes his way out of turn 11, Lando Norris in the McLaren moves to one side and gets out of his way, allowing Perez a nice, clean bit of track which to relax and then pick his braking point about now.
You could see actually the front of the car there. You could see as Perez turned in, he came off the brakes quite hard and the front of the car popped up in the air, and then he lost a bit of front grip. It was really interesting to see the different driving styles down at the turn 10 hairpin.
Yeah, Sergio Perez, 2 minutes to go here, and he's probably got another 15 seconds to go of this particular lap. This is the one that's going to have to count for him to try and get as far up into the top 10 as he possibly can, and he was right on the extremities of the white line through that penultimate turn. He's not going to get another chance here, Sergio Perez, I wouldn't have thought, and he's only 10th fastest. And I say he's not going to get another chance because he's got 1 minute and 35 seconds to get himself to the line before the checkered flag and start again, and that's Perez right in danger of going out here.
Absolutely.
That was a bit dangerous from the RV.
Oh, come on, Kevin. You're out there doing 200 miles an hour. That's a bit dangerous. That really wasn't that dangerous. But obviously want to get other teams into as much trouble as they can. But you're right. That time from Perez, he found only 1/10 of a second between SQ1 and SQ2. And that's not enough. That's just not enough. And he'll be
struggling a lot with the ride.
Understood. Copy that.
Around the world, there is a chorus of people going, well, adjust it then from the cockpit, but you can't do that, and that's not what that device was ever going to do. But just kind of, I can hear the chorus from around the world on that one. We've talked a lot about Bibgate. I think he explained it quite nicely. Pierre Gasly improving on this particular lap. to try and beat a time of a 1:34.8, which was his best time in SQ1. Yuki Tsunoda with a bit of pace too. All of these a threat to Sergio Perez, who I'll be amazed if he goes through to the final part of qualifying here. Pierre Gasly has just missed out behind Sergio Perez by 1/10 of a second. Yuki Tsunoda, let's ride on board with him now through turn 15. Still Alonso and Lawson and Stroll to come to challenge Sergio Perez and try and knock him out. And Yuki Tsunoda has done that for them before they get anywhere near to the checkered flag. He pops himself into that top 10. Sergio Perez is out of sprint qualifying at the second opportunity. Liam Lawson next to cross the line, one of the contenders, maybe, for a Red Bull seat in the future. Goes 12th fastest, just behind Perez in the RB for this particular weekend. And we're on board now with Fernando Alonso, who's been out-qualified 2-1 by his teammate in sprint qualifying this season.
Yeah, what have you got? Fernando really having to... Oh, that looked wide, didn't it? They're really having to coax that Aston Martin into the corners. Traction looks all right through the exit, and there it is, only P12.
That's disappointing for both Alonso and for Stroll, and Stroll only 15th fastest, so major disappointment for Aston Martin, who lose both cars in the second part of sprint qualifying. The team yet to score a point in sprint races this season.
And the Tiny Haas team, and why he's backed off, is he's through.
Yeah.
The Tiny Haas team, 7th and 9th, 2 cars through. That's an outstanding performance.
Home Grand Prix weekend for Haas, and reason to celebrate there as we have a look with Liam Lawson heading up to turn 1. And was his lap kind of over before it started? Not sure, he was on the line. Maybe over the white line there, but I haven't seen a Liam Lawson lap time deleted for that. So, second part of qualifying, Carlos Sainz is out, is through as the fastest driver, I should say. I say out because I was just looking at Kevin Magnussen on the screen, but he had a lap time deleted, not though for his fastest lap. Max Verstappen, second fastest, Lewis Hamilton, third fastest. The bottom 5, this man, Fernando Alonso, with his teammate Lance Stroll just ahead of him, 14th and 15th for Aston Martin. Pierre Gasly, 13th fastest, Liam Lawson, 12th fastest, and Sergio Perez out for Red Bull, and never really looked like making an impression on the top 10.
Okay, so let's just focus on your delta. We are boxing this lap, so we're P10 was a 34.0.
Okay, Liam, that won't be enough.
That was very scrappy, sorry.
Man, Gasly, what the Yeah, I was almost crashed.
Yeah, I saw.
You did exceed track limits at the first corner. And Ted Kravitz, we can head down to you as SQ3 gets underway.
Yes, not some sort of flight number, sprint qualifying 3. I can see the amiable New Zealander, the Kiwi Liam Lawson, just doing the old walk of shame, Crofty, down the pit lane, just past me, and to get weighed at the FIA garage. We'll see what the rest of the weekend brings. Daniel Ricciardo's replacement at RB. But, yeah, Franco Colapinto, as you say, 0.4 of a second off Norris's McLaren, the car that dominated the last race we were at in Singapore. But Magnussen, 2/10.
Why are we so early? I don't want to go there. No worries. Is everyone still in the pit in the garages? A few still in there.
But not George Russell, I think, is what he's...
Franco Colapinto.
That's two sessions in a row that Lewis has said, I'm not sure why we should go out, with probably good reason, because obviously the track gets quicker as the session goes on, and it's soft tyres and it's just one set as well. But yeah, great job from the Haas team. A lot of work going on the back of Nico Hülkenberg's car, again, after the second session, and now just leading into this SQ3. I think it should be all right, and he'll be out shortly.
Hülkenberg and his teammate Kevin Magnussen through then to this final part of qualifying. The two Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc both through. The one McLaren of Norris and the one Red Bull of Verstappen, and the one RB of Tsunoda to go with the one Williams, this man, and the two Mercedes of Hamilton and Russell.
Soft tyres, of course, now, the mandatory, the faster ones, providing they'll complete the lap. But I understand. But, you know, they fire the car up, take the blankets off, and off you go. I don't think you have a lot of say in that, but Lewis is like, well, hang on a minute, what am I doing out here? Yeah. Seems a bit bizarre, doesn't it? But they clearly want to give themselves clear track and perhaps even a second chance. They oversteer the rear axle, the rear tyres spinning like crazy. Two-wheel drive, of course, a Formula One car.
Is that an indication of a balanced shift between a medium tyre and a soft tyre that we saw George Russell going through there?
Yeah, I would think also the tyres would, the outlap, they'll go so slowly the tyres wouldn't really be fully up to temperature. And he was still struggling with it, wasn't he, through 6 and 7. Here we are down at the turn 11 hairpin. Lovely and wide on the way in. Nice arc, pick up the throttle. Again, a little bit of a traction issue as you take the line of least resistance and the shortest route you can get away with, but you must brake in a straight line. And bang, get all the downshift and get off the brake pedal, ease the nose into the corner, pick up the throttle. Lovely, one sweet move. Treat the throttle pedal like it's got an egg underneath it. You don't want to brake in some respects and just sweep down.
We've got Lewis Hamilton on the screen as well. 4/10 quicker than George Russell through the first sector alone. 7/10 quicker than Franco Colapinto, the other car out here currently. And Colapinto going very slowly out of turn 15 and might have gone off the track and had a bit of a problem. Russell continues on his way, crosses the line, 1:32.8. That's the time to beat. Colapinto's got going again. Green flags are now waving as Hamilton arrives on the scene, and there is the Williams car on the right-hand side.
But Russell a half-second faster than Hamilton in the middle sector, so it ended up a very good lap for George Russell.
Yeah, the Mercedes car's trading blow for blow. Maybe you do need to not push too hard in the first sector here and treat your tyres a bit more gently, because you get the better use of them for the next 2/3 of the lap. Round the final corner we go. Hamilton, just the steering input just didn't seem to be what he wanted. He crosses the line, half a second down on his teammate.
Yeah, so Russell gave up the first sector through the snake and then got the dividends later on in the lap.
This is turn 1. Oops. Already looking like he was going off-roading a little bit. By the way, the stewards did look into the Colapinto and Gasly incident. No further investigation needed, and that was what happened down at turn 12.
That Williams seems a bit prone, doesn't it? As soon as he gets some yaw, some oversteer, like the back end sliding, and the tyre seems to give up grip very early on. It's like they lose aero performance when they get into what we call yaw, sliding sideways.
Yeah, that's going to be very costly there for Franco Colapinto.
Come on, guys. That was not good. Yep, copy Lewis. Yeah, understood.
And I rather get the feeling Lewis Hamilton feels that the timing of his run could prove to be very costly for him as well. At 1:33.3, you'd be surprised if that troubles the top 5, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually 8 thousandths slower than he did in SQ2, whereas Russell's found 7/10. So Lewis not happy with that at all. I think he had to really jockey that into the corner, didn't he? No wonder he lost all that time in the middle and towards the end of the lap. The rear tyres were crying enough. So you need to treat the outlap like you're just heading off to the shops, and then the first part of the lap, do not take the grip the tyres can give you, and then use them later on.
He did well, Lewis, there to stay on the white line and not get his time deleted.
He's quite good, isn't he?
he could have a career in this sport, could the young man from Stevenage. Right, everyone else is out on the track now. George Russell has pitted after his one lap for the final part of qualifying, and Franco Colapinto is still out there to try and give it another go. Carlos Sainz, who was the man setting the pace then in SQ2, is now starting his final flying lap for Ferrari, the man who started 5th and finished 5th at every sprint so far in 2024, but has started here on pole, of course, in the past, 2022, where he got tapped by George Russell going through turn 1.
It's like travelling backwards on a train or something, isn't it?
Don't like it.
Yeah, it's got plenty, it's carrying a lot of speed through there.
Yeah, I'd rather be facing forwards with any sort of travel on that one. 25-1 for the first sector, matched by Lando Norris in the McLaren, and Norris is making his way through turn 9 at the moment as Sainz turns into the hairpin and onto the back straight. 25-2 in the first sector for Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari. Kevin Magnussen will be the next driver through the twisty section. 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. We'll get a first sector time from him as Sainz gets towards the end of the middle sector. Magnussen a 25.3 for the first part of the lap, and it's a 37.3 for Carlos Sainz, which is slap bang in the middle of what Russell and Hamilton could do.
Yeah, it looks all right, the Ferrari, doesn't it? It doesn't look sort of exactly glued to the track, but it's good. And this is the very fast 16, 17, 18. And then the slightly off camber 19, where you've got to keep it in check Look at that blue line there. That's your reference point. 1 to go.
This is fascinating.
Oh, deep.
Oh, very deep from Carlos Sainz. Crosses the line, goes second fastest behind George Russell. Lando Norris has got time in hand on Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc has lost a 10th and Max Verstappen picked up a 10th in the first sector. Norris goes on to the front row alongside George Russell, who might have been out there early, but one by one they're failing to get past him. Here comes Charles Leclerc, goes second fastest himself. Ace the final sector though, and still George Russell is on pole position provisionally for the sprints. One by one, they come to challenge, and one by one they're just failing. But has Max Verstappen got enough in hand through this final sector to make an impression on the Mercedes?
It's an okay middle sector for him, a good first sector. He's in play, isn't he? Verstappen's got a chance if the tyres will stay with him right to the line.
And by this stage, the tyres will be wanting to go and have a little lie down as Yuki Tsunoda goes 7th fastest behind Kevin Magnussen in 6th. Verstappen to the final corner. Can he get on pole? Yes, he can. For the sprint race that he won from start to finish last year here in Austin, Max Verstappen delivers by 12 1/1000ths of a second and puts his Red Bull on pole for Saturday's sprint. Hulkenberg, 6th fastest for him. Colapinto doing his best to move up from 10th, but he won't trouble pole. George Russell has the front row, and that man, Max Verstappen, back on pole, and it's been a long time since we said that.
Yeah, it's back in the game, isn't it? That was a very Max-like lap in terms of putting it all together. This is tough. You got one set of tyres, one lap effectively. You've got to get out there and ace it, ace every braking point, every turn in. Do not let the car slide anywhere, but do not leave anything on the table.
Great job, Max. P1.
Let's go. Nice one.
Well done, mate. Good start to the weekend. Well done.
Yeah, that's
he was fastest.
Happy with that. Thank you, guys. Let's return after a little break. Well done.
He was fastest in qualifying in Belgium, but took the engine penalty and couldn't start on pole. That's Max Verstappen's first pole position in any format of racing in Formula One since Imola.
Yeah, extraordinary. But since they put that car on the track this morning, it's looked more competitive than of late, along with Ferrari. I think the outlier up there, George Russell, did a super job to find 7/10ths of a second between the two qualifying sessions, and that's a good effort, a very good effort.
Hardly anything to choose between Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz in 3rd, 4th and 5th. Sainz, once again, qualifies 5th. 4th time this year. Car number 55 has qualified 5th in the sprint. And what, 3 1/100ths of a second between Leclerc and Sainz, with Norris in between. Decent performance from the Haas of Nico Hulkenberg, 6th on the grid, ahead of George Russell's Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton. Kevin Magnussen starts 8th ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, and the Haas and RB battle, well, there could be some very precious points here for Haas to pick up in the sprint. They're only 3 points behind RB in the championship. Colapinto for Williams, not having the best Q3 session after that spin. Let's have a look here at Charles Leclerc.
Oh, that was a bit wild, wasn't it?
Yeah. Compromised.
Yeah, he did well to carry, keep the forward momentum going, actually, because that was turning into quite an incident. Oh, look at that, hits the bump, so the car gets a lot of vertical moment. That takes him over a curb he doesn't want to be on, but he did manage to just keep the throttle on and drive through it, but it cost him time.
Max Verstappen then, with the tribute helmet for this weekend. And who in the Grand Prix on Sunday will be going for a 7th win in the United States of America. He and Lewis Hamilton could do that, become the first drivers ever in Formula One to win 7 times in the USA. And whilst he can celebrate a P1 here, Nico Hulkenberg might be a mighty relieved man. I think I'm hearing he had a bit of a water leak and almost didn't finish the lap.
His car, you mean?
His car, yeah. Not him.
Yeah. And what I mean, Hulkenberg's 3/10ths off pole in a 93-second lap. That's a great effort.
Certainly is. Fastest Ferrari-powered car, of course, in Singapore, where he qualified 6th on the grid last time out. Not the fastest Ferrari-powered car here today, but he'll be mightily happy with that, I'm sure. We'll hear from Max Verstappen in a few moments' time. This is exactly what he would have wanted. I know it's not the main qualifying, I know it's not for the main Grand Prix, but he will want to come back and do this weekend what Lando Norris did in Holland and make a statement on a return, you know, after a long break away. Right. James Hinchcliffe has the mic, as does Max Verstappen. Let's hear from your man in P1.
Max Verstappen back at the top of Formula One here in the sprint race in Austin. You've won the last 3 Grand Prix here. You've won the last 3 sprint races on the season. It really seems like this is all coming together for you.
Yeah, we had, I think, a good day. Of course, sprint quali is always very difficult. You know, you do medium, and then a soft. You never really know how much you can push, but I'm happy with today. I think the whole day the car was working quite well, and of course, yeah, very happy to be first. It's been a while, so yeah, very pleased with today.
Lots of upgrades on the car for you this weekend. New track surface here as well. How difficult was it to tune all those different things in just 1 hour practice heading into sprint qualifying?
It's always very hectic, and you know, this track is amazing to drive. And now with, you know, new tarmac, a little bit older tarmac, the very old tarmac, the bumpy stuff, it's not easy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same for everyone, but to deal with it over 1 lap is not always the easiest, but it's fun.
And then just looking ahead to tomorrow, how much is the focus on trying to maximize the point score tomorrow versus learning as much as you can for the Grand Prix on Sunday?
We'll do the best we can tomorrow in the sprint, but we also know, of course, the most points are available on Sunday, so that's where we really want to do well.
All right, well, congratulations again, being back on top. Max Verstappen sitting on the pole for the sprint race tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. Coming up.